You're watching the only podcast that matters. I'm your host, Jean-Paul Leek, and this is Rope Break. And you know what time it is here, folks. Tuesday morning, Monday Night Raw review, and this Raw was really good, actually. I say that, but I'm going to use the analogy of it was a sandwich that had two really good pieces of bread, and then what was in the sandwich was kind of it wasn't the best, it wasn't the worst, it was tolerable because the opening hour of the show was fantastic, the closing hour was good, the middle hour it just cut that out. Like if Raw was 2 hours and just like SmackDown, this would have been an amazing show. The opening hour was great and this is for Raw standards. The opening Raw was great, or the opening hour. The closing hour was great. Everything with Drew McIntyre. We'll get into it. I'm not going to get into it now, but just for an overall, one sentence impression of the show, it was definitely great. But before we get into it, thank you to all the fans, all the new subscribers. We really appreciate all you guys. Check out our video. Of course, we have AEW Revolution. We have the English version and the Spanish. Check them both out. A fantastic pay-per-view that I think definitely made us, who are a little iffy on AEW, it definitely made us, fall in love with that brand again, because fantastic wrestling, every match, whether it is the storytelling and the in-ring action, or just the in-ring action, fantastic stuff there. An amazing pay-per-view, and a great review by us, if I am going to toot our own horn, which I will. And of course, we have all the other previous reviews from the weekly show, some soccer gameplay on there as well. So please check all that stuff out. So let's get right into the show. The show opened up with Brock Lesnar. He comes out with Paul Heyman. They really wanted to kick things off hot, going into Elimination Chamber, go home show for Raw. So it was really good stuff. So Lesnar comes out with Heyman, and Heyman says how it's his job really to hype up the match at WrestleMania, because this is one of the most loaded cards, that we've seen in a long time. But he's like, this main event's a sham, and he says it's all just to sell people on Drew McIntyre, and he's like, he's pretty much just a hyped up fraud. And then Heyman says how at the Royal Rumble, Brock massacred 15, WWE superstars. And he was, hit from behind in the balls by Ricochet, and then that gave McIntyre the opportunity to eliminate Lesnar with a Claymore kick. And then Heyman says that he can't even pin Lesnar. Like, who does he think he is? He's like, he's not going to be able to pin him. All he did was take advantage of a situation. He's like, you're not going to be able to submit him. You're not going to be able to do anything to take him down. He's like, and next time that Brock lays his hands on Drew, it will be over, because Drew's nothing more than a stupid big bitch. And I was like, oh, okay, things are getting heated. It's what we like to see. It gives it that realistic, because when you're cutting these promos and you're heated on somebody, you're going to swear. You're going to be real angry and aggravated. It makes it a little realistic. I don't know if big bitch was the appropriate insult there, but hey, anyway, it was some pretty good stuff. So then Drew McIntyre's music hits, and he comes out. He looks like a man on a mission, and he heads right to the ring. He immediately goes face to face with Lesnar. Lesnar stares him down. He points at the title, backs away, kind of laughing a little bit. And then just as he's about to leave, he turns around. He goes to jump McIntyre. McIntyre, he's like freaking Goldberg, man, at Super Showdown. He came in there with unlimited finishers. He hit Claymore kick, boom, knocked him down. And he wasn't done, because Lesnar, when he starts making his way up to the top of the entrance, because at this point, McIntyre already went to the back. So Lesnar is slow. He really sold the Claymore kick. Got to give him credit for that. And then when he's making his way up the ramp, McIntyre comes out from the back and Claymore kicks him again. And then, he's waiting, and then he hits Brock with a third one, and then he holds up the title. And then everyone's like, one more. And then he hits a third. Oh, excuse me. He hit a third. I read that out twice. So he hit 3 Claymore kicks on Brock Lesnar to open up the show. So that's what I mean. A fantastic opening segment. The one thing I don't like about it is that he picked up the belt. Because I don't ever like somebody touching the belt before they win it. Especially a babyface, because to me it taints it. It's like, now that he has bad luck. It's like the Madden curse. If you're on the cover, it's not guaranteed you're going to be hurt or have a bad season, but something usually happens. So it's one of those things that I prefer to not see them do, but it was what it was. It was a great opening segment, though, otherwise, besides a little bit of superstition like that. So then we get the Raw Tag Team Championship match, and this is Seth Rollins and, of course, Buddy Murphy versus the Street Profits in like a Never Again match or something it was called. It was like our last time ever. If the Street Profits didn't win this time, they would never be able to challenge for the Monday Night Raw titles again. I don't know if that was a stipulation that was made up, by Seth Rollins, or how this came to be. Never really. It's like a weird stipulation, almost like a loser leave town, but like kind of something like what Cody did. How he was never able to challenge when he lost to Jericho. Maybe it was something like that. But anyway, this match was a fantastic match. Let me take you through some of the spots. Before the thing even starts, the tag champs, the Monday Night Messiah and his goon Buddy Murphy, they start beating down the Street Profits. But then the Street Profits, they are able to turn the corner and they start beating them up. But then Ford leaps over the top rope, but Rollins and Murphy catch him. They throw him in the barricades, and then it's just Montez Ford. Angelo Dawkins. He's really just fending for himself, for the opening part of this match. So Dawkins, he gets bumped out of the ring by Murphy. But then Dawkins, he starts to fire back, and he takes out Murphy and Seth, bringing Ford back in. And this time, his dive over the top rope works. Back in the ring, he keeps the pace going with the double cross body. He follows it with a DDT to Rollins and then a standing moonsault. Rollins manages to regain control with a buckle bomb, and Murphy catches Ford with a kick at the same time. And then Dawkins manages to break up the pinfall, but he gets launched into the ring post for his troubles. And then Seth looks to do the same again with Ford, but he reverses it. And then this leads to Murphy kicking Seth in the face. Ford then sends Murphy flying out of the ring, and he catches Seth with a big kick. So then, a little bit later on, because AOP, they come out, Seth signals for them, and then they make their way down, but the official is like, no, I'm not having this go down. He sends them to the back, and then, so they were really saying, like, oh, this was good on the official to actually send them back and not be a moron, like, oh, I'll just let all Seth's goons hang around here. So he was yelling at them, telling them to get in the back. Who, slivers into the ring? Not Randy Orton, Kevin freaking Owens, man. Boom, stunner, and you loved it because you knew what was going to happen. He hit a stunner on Rollins, done. So then AOP, they chase off Kevin Owens because they hear the stunner and they're like, what? They turn around, they chase Owens out of there. And then Murphy gets sent, into the timekeeper's area by Dawkins. But back in the ring, Ford is, Ford's already on the top turnbuckle. Boom, frog splash, 1, 2, 3. We have new Raw Tag Team Champions. If the stipulation didn't make it obvious, here it is in proof that they're new tag champs. And I was excited for them, and I felt like the stipulation made it, like I said, obvious that they were going to win, but it's still cool to see them win. I love Montez Ford, Angelo Dawkins, the two of them together, the Street Profits. I'm really behind this team. They did fantastic things in NXT. Now they're finally getting their due on Monday Night Raw. Hopefully they don't lose the titles in a rematch at the Elimination Chamber, because after the match, we had Seth Rollins and Buddy Murphy backstage, and Charlie Caruso, she wants to know, she's like, hey, I know you probably don't want to talk right now, but she's like, I want your immediate reactions of what happened. And he's like, he says that anyone who stands in their way will be eradicated, and he said most superstars have to ask, but he's not, just like any other generic wrestler, so he demands that, they have a rematch with them at the Elimination Chamber, and he said we will be facing the Street Profits for the title. So I hope they just don't do flip-flop just to be like, oh yeah, it was, so they weren't eliminated, because to me, I feel like they should beat them again and retain that Elimination Chamber. That would make the most sense, and it would make these guys actually look credible. But then Rollins, he says to, when it comes to Kevin Owens, that he can name the time and the place and the stipulation where he will be crucified. So maybe that's setting it up, I assume, for a WrestleMania match. Probably because there's to me, if the Street Profits are going to lose the titles, it should be to the AOP. Like I said, you need to get the belts back on the AOP. So, or not back on the AOP to begin with, so they can eventually get them back on the Viking Raiders. But AOP, they're, I feel, next in line, not Rollins and Murphy again. So hopefully Rollins' WrestleMania match is just a one-on-one for Kevin Owens to be who's the dominant, who is it going to be, the faces or the heels, who's going to be on, the King of the Mountain come WrestleMania. So then we get the WWE 24/7 Championship match, and I was Riddick Moss, who was already in the ring. He didn't get an entrance, but Ricochet did. So it's like, okay, maybe Ricochet, he's going to get the 24/7 championship. Maybe they're going to start to try to finally present that in a legit way, because they said there can't be no interference. This is a legit match. And, everything's AEW is doing. Maybe they thought, hey, we should actually try to finally, book a good show. And so far, the first, two segments we saw, the opening segment with Lesnar and McIntyre, and then the tag team championship match, is like, maybe they are. Maybe they actually do give a shit now. But then we got this match, and then we knew, yeah, probably not. So the two men, they go back and forth, hitting the ropes, and then Riddick Moss, he wipes out Ricochet. He takes control, and he goes after Ricochet's back, but Ricochet tries, get some offense in with a springboard from the second rope, but Moss catches him and then dumps him over the top rope to the outside. So then later on in this thing, Ricochet tries to lift Moss, but he responds with a sharp elbow to the face. However, Ricochet uses him as a launching pad and then an enziguri. However, Moss responds by planting Ricochet down to the mat, not just once but twice, and then he uses some kind of like a neck breaker, and then he slams Ricochet down. Ricochet sold the hell out of this thing, and then he was able to retain with a 1-2-3. So Ricochet, you got zero offense in on Lesnar. You look like a clown after talking all this game, and they hyped it up. Video package, you go out there, you look like a freaking loser. And then we have this happening, so I don't know who he pissed off, but dude, please go to NXT, or maybe this will be a Finn Balor thing where he turns heel, but they keep it on the main roster. Who knows? But he's right like Cedric Alexander and all these other guys, Mustafa Ali, Chad Gable, a loser. I'm sorry, I don't feel that way. This is how WWE perceives them, and it's a shame. So then we get AJ Styles. He addresses, everything that happened at Super Showdown with The Undertaker. Were we going to see The Undertaker tonight? Some people were thinking it was going to be in their match. That way, neither him or Aleister Black loses. But did we see the dead man? No, we didn't. But this was still a pretty good segment, so let's get into it. Styles says that he isn't in a good mood. He should be out here with the beautiful trophy, but somebody deprived him of that. The Undertaker. He asks how people can talk about him in a negative manner. He's like, how can you do that? I'm phenomenal. Then he shows them a video of Mark Wahlberg at a recent press interview giving him advice, telling him to just walk away from The Undertaker. It's not worth it. I think he's doing some Netflix movie that's affiliated with WWE, so they're like, hey, Mark, can you just film this little bullshit thing that kind of just took me out of it, because it's like, really, Mark Wahlberg? Like, he's cool, he's legit, but in wrestling, I don't need to see him. So then AJ tells The Undertaker that he's trying to hold on to a spotlight that he doesn't belong in anymore, and that's because that it's his. So then before that match begins, AJ says that Black didn't read the fine print, and if he wants the match with him, he has to go through the toughest man in the building, Carl Anderson. So then we get Carl Anderson versus Aleister Black, and Black starts things off. He sends Anderson to the outside, and then he slides out, catching Luke Gallows in the process. And then he strikes Anderson with a kick and then a stare down from AJ. But back from the commercial, Anderson catches Black with an elbow to the head and then a spine buster, but Black kicks out. And then Anderson hits Black with an uppercut, but Black responds with some strikes of his own, sweeping the leg to drop Anderson. And then he follows up with a springboard, moonsault, and then Anderson walks straight into the Black mass. So winner, Aleister Black. And then, he goes after AJ, but AJ gets on the mic one more time. He's like, whoa. He's like, I said something wrong about the contract. You actually have to go through Luke Gallows as well. So then Gallows immediately attacks Black. Kind of why he's still like looking at AJ like, really? Gallows hits him, sends him to the outside, and then he throws Black into the barricade and into the steel steps. And then Gallows hits a big splash in the corner. And then, some big elbows to the back of his neck. Black eventually turns things around with a few big kicks, knee strikes. But Luke Gallows throws, some more big punches in the corner. It ends with him being disqualified. So the winner is technically Aleister Black, because Black was just so tired, exhausted. But Luke Gallows was just beating him down in the corner. So he was defenseless. The ref was like, hey. It might have actually went to like the count of 5 if they count like legit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Not how they do it in WWE land, but So he got disqualified, so Aleister Black was the winner. So then the OC, they hit the ring, and then they're just beating down Aleister Black. They hit the Magic Killer, and they leave him laying in the ring. So, pretty much his guys set up, this was his way out of it. So, now he's clearly in no shape to fight AJ Styles. So the bell rings. Black's not even on his feet. AJ picks, he beats him down. But Black manages to catch AJ with a few kicks eventually once he goes on. Because Styles is just kind of toying with him at first. And then AJ hits a backbreaker and then a brain buster, which AJ hit. That brain buster he hit was so legit. And then at that point, Black was done. And then AJ leaps, he hits a phenomenal forearm, and then he pins Aleister Black. He does the dead man. He didn't even imitate it that well. He had his one leg bent up and this and that, but he did the tongue sticking out and this and that, and he had the arms pinned down like that. So he did his own phenomenal, not phenom version of it. So AJ Styles gets the win here. Like I said, it wasn't a clean win. It was a way to get them out of it. The only other way I could have seen would have been having The Undertaker be there. Maybe they felt they didn't want to overdo The Undertaker. He might not show up for a couple weeks, kind of build that suspense for when he does. I'm not sure what they're going to do, but, I'm sure some people didn't like the beatdown because it's some weeks you may, Ricochet, he beat both members of the OC with ease, and then Aleister Black kind of had a tough time with him, so it is what it is. We'll see, what happens, but I'm excited for this feud, but it looks like the main feud for WrestleMania is The Undertaker and AJ Styles, so where does Aleister Black fit in? I don't think this will be a triple threat. Maybe Juan will love that, who knows, but I don't think they're going to go down the triple threat route, so we'll see. So then we get a Ruby Riott interview, and then Riott, she's asked if anyone, could have predicted the Riott Squad splitting up like this. And then she says that people make and break promises every day. However, the only person that is responsible for her is herself. And she said that this Sunday she will prove her ability to strike whenever she pleases. And she will prove that there are no friends inside the Elimination Chamber. So then they kind of go over what happened at the contract signing. Again, how the three members of the Riott Squad are in this. And how they used to be friends. And Sarah Logan was kind of caught in the middle. So then we get a match of Ruby Riott and Liv Morgan with Sarah Logan as the guest referee. So I don't really like these two going against each other. I mean, this is definitely the start. The feud is still going to continue. I'm not saying that this feud was so monumental that they shouldn't have laid hands on each other until a blow-off match. But, this for their first match, it was anticlimactic. Hopefully they build more on it in the chamber and then continue the feud, more and more and escalate its intensity, because this match was not, anything to write home about. But we'll take you through it. So right away, Ruby, she starts to beat down Morgan. She gains control with a drop kick from the second rope. And then she starts pulling at Liv Morgan's hair. And then Riott, she avoids Liv's attack and then through the ropes and then sends her into the ring post, following it with a sharp kick to the head. And then Riott, she locks in a submission, and she, demands Sarah Logan to ask. She's like, is Liv going to quit? She's kind of just being mean to Sarah Logan. And then Morgan battles out, and she returns the favor with several big punches of her own. Riott then plants Morgan down on the mat, and then during the pin attempt, Riott is sent knocking into Logan after Morgan kicks out, leading to some tension. And then Riott takes out Morgan again, but Sarah is a little slow to the pin, which leads Riott to shoving Sarah Logan. And then while she does that, Morgan gets up and she rolls up and then rolls up Ruby. So Sarah does a fast count to be like, screw you. 1, 2, 3. And the winner is Liv Morgan. So you did see that she did pick a side. There was some tension. To me, it didn't. This match was extremely rushed, in the sense where the tension didn't build. She got kicked out. She knocked Sarah Logan. She goes for a pin. Sarah Logan was slow to get there. She made technically a slow count, but it was just more slow to start the count. So then Ruby gets in her face, and then Liv immediately gets a fast count. There wasn't any I feel like she sided with Liv too fast. But this match, this is kind of when the show started to go down a little bit. This is getting into the second hour now. So like I said, this is where the show, it was okay, you can get through it, but in reality, you wish you didn't have to see it. So then after the match, Ruby, she gets up, up in Sarah Logan's face. She shoves her. Morgan then bursts through, takes down Ruby once more. However, she doesn't have time to celebrate because then Logan attacks her to stand tall out of all of them. So you see what I mean? I guess she used Liv Morgan's, naive, her naive nature against her. I don't know what you want to say. Because like I said, Ruby, she's the one who looks the most like an idiot. She's the one who actually lost. Sarah Logan looks the smartest because she's standing tall. So then we get a backstage segment with Eric Rowan and No Way Jose, except, he's the knockoff version. We know the original, Cha-Cha Charlie. So No Way Jose, he's seen with his conga line backstage, and he bumps into Rowan. He's like, hey, man, let me just see what's in this cage, Like, we're all dying to know. WWE probably wrote some bullshit thing that doesn't even make sense anyway, so you might as well show us. And then Rowan's like, yeah, you're right. It is something that's bullshit. So, he's like, and you did ask me politely, so I'm going to show you. What does he pull out? A giant fake tarantula hairy spider. That's it. They all run away. He laughs, coochie coo, whatever he says, puts it back in the cage. What do you want me to say? You could have made something kind of cool with this. I'm not saying it would have been the best storyline ever, but you could have made it something cool. We get a tarantula. I don't care. I have nothing more to say, so let's just keep on going. Kairi Sane versus Shayna Baszler. This was supposed to be Asuka. Asuka is apparently hurt. Now, I didn't see anything news-wise, but, I did have a busy weekend, everything with the Revolution we were doing. I wasn't really checking news, as much as I normally do, so maybe she did hurt herself. Maybe they just didn't want to give this match away. I would go with the latter because I don't know why you would give this match away right away, especially when you don't want to, hold Shayna's momentum at all. So we get Kairi Sane versus Shayna Baszler. And this was a pretty good match, but before things start, Asuka says that Shayna got lucky tonight because she's injured, like I was saying, so Kairi's going to fill in for her. And then the match gets underway, but Sane, she goes for the legs of Baszler, but she just shrugs off Kairi Sane. Baszler manages to get a hold of the wrist and begins grinding away, and then she gets distracted by Asuka, who's on the outside. She's talking shit. And then while this happens, Sane takes advantage. She hits some huge slaps to the face of Baszler, which only, of course, angers her because obviously we've seen how their matches go before. This is nowhere near anything that they did in NXT, but it's like the NXT light version. Like they kind of played the same game, except took a little more offense away from Sane, and just kind of sped through their match. This was like a spark notes of like an NXT match. So then let's go down a little bit here. Sane, she goes for a roll-up, but Shayna kicks out, and then she hits a huge kick to the face of Sane. And then while Baszler keeps dominating, Becky Lynch comes out, and, so Shayna throws down Kairi Sane out of the ring, and she has a stare down with Becky. And then Lynch heads to commentary, and Shayna, continues the match, and she goes a little bit of back and forth with Sane. Like I said, Kairi's able to fight back a little bit, but they really toned down her offense. But here she was able to hit some strikes, some forearms, get a couple punches in, and then she eventually does hit a neck breaker, and she follows it up with a forearm in the corner, and then Sane climbs. She goes for the insane elbow, but then Shayna, gets her foot up, and then she joins her at the top rope, and then hits a gut wrench suplex, and then Baszler locks in for the submission, and then Sane is forced to tap out. There's no way they were going to have her try to kick out of the Karafuda clutch. She almost taps out immediately, which was a smart thing to do after all the offense that she took. So the winner, of course, Shayna Baszler. And like I said, it was a dominant performance by Shayna. That's what we wanted to see. She, it wasn't a quick victory, like 2-3 minutes. At least Kairi got a little bit of offense in. But to me, the match, it was definitely taken away by the cringiness of Becky Lynch, because after the match was over, she just was saying the same thing. She's like, I'm still the champ. I'm still the champ. I'll face you after Elimination Chamber. And she repeated it twice. It was weird, like she was just stuck on repeat or something. It was, she's not good in this cocky heel type role, because she's almost annoying. She's so annoying as a babyface now. It's almost like how Seth Rollins was, where it's now we think you're a heel, and we're all just waiting for the title to go on Shayna Baszler at this point. At least I am, because Becky Lynch, I've soured on her, just not even for her matches or in-ring ability or anything like that, just for her promo work alone. I've soured on her, and I'm ready for Shayna Baszler. So then we get a backstage interview. Now again, we're getting into the third hour. Things are starting to pick up again. So we get a backstage interview. Rey Mysterio says that Humberto will keep getting back up no matter how many times he's knocked down. And despite having to face his own blood, Rey says that this whole thing will end when and how they want it to end. So we get Rey Mysterio and Humberto Carrillo versus Angel Garza and Andrade. And this match was a fantastic match. There was literally no way that it couldn't be because, look at the 4 guys that are in this match. So right away, Humberto, he goes for Andrade, connecting with some chops, setting him to the outside. Then Rey Mysterio, he goes towards Angel Garza, and he tries to go for a Hurricane Rana, but he gets caught, and then he gets slammed into the barricade, and Andrade slams Humberto into the barricade as well. So then Humberto and Andrade, they start beating each other down, double back body drop, and then the heels, they start to dominate Humberto. Andrade hits his Tranquilo post, but Garza stops Carrillo from attacking him while in that spot. And then he looks to rip off his pants, but Carrillo does it, and then he sends Garza into Andrade, knocking him out of the ring. So while he was still kind of like hung up on the ropes, he shoved him and knocked him out of that Tranquilo pose. So that was pretty cool how he got the upper hand there. And then Mysterio leaps in, and he goes to take out Garza, and Carrillo continues his attack on Andrade. And then later on in this thing, because it had 2 commercial breaks, so I'll skip to when we get back from the second commercial break. Mysterio, he's back in action, and he goes to hit the 619, but Garza catches him and then attacks the ribs of Mysterio, and he places Rey on the top turnbuckle, but he dives into the ring and hits a huge Canadian destroyer. And then Andrade drags Garza to make the tag, and he hits a springing back elbow to take out Mysterio. And then Carrillo then returns with a huge missile dropkick, and he tries to go for the top rope, but Andrade chops his legs away, leading to him falling to the mat. And then Andrade follows it with double knees in the corner. Rey breaks it up, and he sets both Andrade and Garza up for the 619, connecting, hitting both men. Carrillo then climbs to the top rope and hits a huge moonsault from the top rope to pick up the win. And I believe he did pin Andrade. I believe it was who he pinned. So fantastic match. It was good to see Humberto get the win here, and him versus Andrade for the United States Championship will be at the Elimination Chamber. So I do believe that, this is when Andrade, this will be the final nail in his punishment coffin. Boom, you're going to lose to Humberto. And then maybe if they continue this to WrestleMania, I could see Andrade getting it back there. But I don't think you can really have him win another championship match and still have this guy continue, to be in contention for it. If he loses one more time, in my opinion, he's done. He should have been done before this, but, it's WWE land, WWE booking, so I don't really question it. So with saying that, I could definitely see them continuing this to WrestleMania, but we'll see. But like I said, this was a fantastic match. There was no way that, like I said, this couldn't be, but, another match also that I'd want to mention while we're on the subject, another match that was announced for the Elimination Chamber was AJ Styles versus Aleister Black. So maybe The Undertaker will appear there, and if we get to see The Undertaker again, we saw him last time we went to a Monday Night Raw in Philly, so we're going to see the Elimination Chamber in Philly again, or another show in Philly rather. So, if we see The Undertaker, then, Undertaker and Philly, they're going to be synonymous, so that'll be pretty cool. So, like I said, really excited for the Elimination Chamber. They're making it better. They're stacking this pay-per-view as well as WrestleMania. And I think they're doing that because both chamber matches will probably be kind of meh. I mean, the tag team one could be surprising, could be good, but I feel like it's not going to be that great. And the women's, I feel, will be great in certain spots, but we do have, unfortunately, no offense, Liv Morgan and Sarah Logan. So that's 2 women who are not the most talented, so we'll see what, how this goes. But let's get into the main event, the one thing that a lot of people were looking forward to, and, it was definitely going to be an emotional segment, and that's Beth Phoenix provides an update on her husband, Edge. So Beth says she appreciates being given this time, and that she's here to give a medical update on Edge. But before she can continue, Randy Orton, he shows up, he walks down, he goes to hug Beth, but she just pretty much she doesn't want anything to do with him. And then he goes to shake her hand, and she asks if he thinks he would she asks him why he thinks she would do either of those things. After what he did to her husband, and she calls him a son of a bitch. Then Orton sits on the top turnbuckle, and Beth says that she thought that she might see him tonight, and that if anyone needs to hear this, it's him. And then Beth is here because she needs her husband, and she is here as a mother because her children deserve their father. Beth tries to carry on, but Orton leaps off the turnbuckle, and he stares down Beth once again, and he says that he knows what she was going to say, and he says that it's certainly that Edge will never wrestle again. And Orton says that he owes Beth an explanation. He said back in 1999, WWE had a live event in St. Louis where he lives, and he said he got taken down there by his father to meet some agents so he could break into the business. And then he said that, he saw all these people there, and everybody was kind of just was being introduced to them, but only one of them, went up to his father and introduced himself as a fan, and that was Edge. And Edge said to him that, he respected what he did, Cowboy Bob Orton, that he was one of the best in the business, and he's like, oh, this is my son Randy, he wants to break in the business. And, Edge said, hey, keep doing what you're doing, kid, and, one day that they could work together in the ring. And then Orton says that years later they were battling in main events for the IC Championship, and then they became rated RKO, but he got too close to the sun, made some poor life choices, and then Orton says that he dug a hole so deep he should have been buried, but Edge pulled him out of it. Orton said that Edge saved his life, and in return, he saved Edge's life. He says after the Royal Rumble, he realized that Edge thought he was back for good, and he knows better. He knows someone like him was going to put Edge in a wheelchair or worse, and he wanted their daughters to have a father. Orton claims he did it all because he loved Edge, Beth, and their two little girls. Orton says everyone blames him for what he did to Edge, but Beth knows that it isn't his fault, it's Beth's fault. And he says that she is an enabler. She did nothing to stop him or help him, so he had to step in. Orton says that when he realizes something, that he loves, both their little girls and Edge more than she ever would. And then Orton says that the truth hurts. Beth responds with a slap to his face, which leads him to staring her down. He throws the mic down. He just stares her down. At this point, he's pissed. The fan, everybody's chanting RKO. Everybody wants it, which is the sick thing, but I wanted it too, because it would just add so much fuel to the storyline. But everybody's chanting RKO, and then she kicks him in the stomach, and then Orton drops, but he lowers his head, and the Phoenix goes to hit him, but then he just, of course, boom, RKO out of nowhere, and everybody's freaking out. A lot of people are cheering because, like I said, we all wanted it because we all know how much it would do for the story. So she gets hit with an RKO. Fans are cheering, fans are booing, people are gasping. They really sell it on commentary. They kind of screw the camera angles to make it look like it's something they don't want to be showing on TV. You have the Edge heads. They come out. Zack Ryder, Kurt Hawkins, Natalya, R-Truth, and Rey Mysterio, I believe. They all come down to check on Edge. And you have the commentary team. And even Byron Saxton, he called, he's like, Beth is right. He is a son of a bitch. And I was like, oh, man, Byron Saxton, he's getting some balls here for once. They're fine. His testes are finally dropping. It's, it's a miracle. That's Byron Saxton, awesome. So, he showed, the commentary team did a good job selling it. The King really didn't say much, but, that's, part of the course. So, great main event. And I'm happy that this closed the show and didn't open it. Obviously, that they could have continued the show, but I feel like to really have this dramatic stick, with Matt Hardy, they did it in the opening because they were like, screw you, Matt Hardy, we don't care, but he's a free agent now, so Exalted One, here we come. But, with Beth Phoenix, I definitely feel like they wanted that to close the show. And like I said, the first hour of Raw, fantastic. Middle hour, could have done without. And then the third hour was fantastic. So, really, the Elimination Chamber for me, if I'm giving it a pass or a fail rating, the go-home show of Raw for the Elimination Chamber, if I'm giving it a pass or a go, I'm definitely giving it a pass. This did not fail. This was not a bad show at all. The middle hour, like I said, you could have done without, but it was definitely watchable. The first and third hour were fantastic, and it did, it did hype me up for the Elimination Chamber. I'm excited to see AJ Styles and Aleister Black because it's a no DQ match as well. So I feel like the Undertaker could really appear there, and everybody's gonna pop for that. The Street Profits versus Seth Rollins and Buddy Murphy. Say what you will about the Monday Night Messiah, but he's not bad in the ring, and neither are those other three guys. So fantastic match for that. Same thing, it'd be cool to see Humberto and Andrade wrestle live, even though we've seen that match 1,000 times. It'll be cool for us just to see it live. And, if they do the title change, that's always something cool to see as well. So they did a great job hyping up Elimination Chamber for me. And this was the Monday Night Raw review. So like I said, please check out all the stuff if you haven't already from last week. AEW Revolution. Check out Outbreak Wrestling Symphony of Chaos 2 if you haven't, from a few weeks ago. Fantastic, local wrestling. All the shows from last week, of course, as well. We have a little bit of gameplay on Facebook where we were kind of trying to talk about Revolution, but we're more just too into the game, really didn't talk about it too much, but some fun, enjoyable gameplay, with yours truly over there, and Juan, of course. And, stay tuned for, AEW Revolution Thursday morning. Revolution. AEW Dynamite. I wish it was going to be Revolution, but, AEW Dynamite come Thursday morning. NXT on Thursday night. At some point, we do want to get the Big Show Broken Skull Sessions episode up there because that was a great episode. We want to give our opinions on it because it was probably our favorite episode by far. So look for that. Hopefully coming soon. And then, like I said, Rope Break will be at the Elimination Chamber live, baby. Sunday we'll be there. So look forward to some videos on that as well. And don't forget to subscribe. Follow us on all social media. You guys know what to do by now. So thank you all so much, and we'll see you next time.